you achieve your goals.
Perfect. What I have here is, I wonder if I can share my screen. I've got a few. There's this active transportation. Can you guys see my screen?
We can, yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what I've prepared here, just to kind of get you guys up to speed and give you an idea of what we're doing with active transportation. I haven't used Google Sheets, so this is kind of new to me. Okay, here we go. Hope I can do this right. Okay, perfect. So here we go. So this was a plan. So our active transportation plan really started in 2010. We hired a consultant, Alta, and they came in and helped us with our bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And this sheet here kind of shows what we had in 2010 as far as, and you can see that legend where we had some planned multi-use path, existing paths, as well as some bike lanes, and where at that time in 2010 where we had planned on putting in some bike lanes. After that process, we went through a pretty lengthy public process looking at different types of active transportation. Mainly it was based around cycling and some PED plans. We looked at complete streets and all kinds of different options, and a lot of those were incorporated into that plan. Then we came up with kind of what we wanted to have for our proposed plans, where we had planned bike lanes, and that's probably been mainly our major area of focus, is where are we going to add these bike lanes. And you can see that there's some bike routes. I don't know if we necessarily have gone through and actually put in the signage for those bike routes. For some of you guys, I'm sure you're aware the bike routes are simply going to be either signed with signs on the side of the road, or we could be putting in sharrows. I'm not aware of putting in any sort of painting or sharrows in some of these areas, and or the signing, but I can speak to where we've actually been adding the bike lanes. This was an update. So in 2015, we started an update to our transportation master plan. And when we did that, the whole thought is that as we're going to incorporate this plan, this bike and ped plan, we'll add those to it. But prior to that, what we started to do with this plan that we had developed by Alta is, as we go through and do some sort of a surface treatment, either A, microsurface, or B, an asphalt overlay, then we would go ahead and change the striping. Now, the reason why we would do that is twofold. One, we didn't want to necessarily go in on some of these roads, like 12th North, for example, 4th North, 4th East, where we had a shoulder stripe, a travel lane, and then a center turn lane. In order to fit these bike lanes in, we would have to eliminate that center turn lane. So to do that, if we weren't doing some sort of a surface treatment, then we would have those ghost lines on there. So we said, hey, we'll go ahead and roll this plan out as we do a surface treatment. But what we found out, one of them was on, I want to say it was 4th East. We had actually, I want to say we may have just done a microsurface treatment to it. When we did that, now let me think about that for a second. We may have been an overlay, because we wanted to make sure that when we put the striping down, we didn't want to necessarily just do a slurry seal and then change the striping, because when we move that striping around, what we didn't want to have happen is we didn't want the wheel path of our cars on any of those asphalt seams. I don't know if you guys remember the asphalt seam we had on Center Street here probably 3 years ago, where that seam it was on the west side of State Street. We had a joint there, and that joint started to fail. And when that failed, I mean, it was pretty miserable. That whole thing was blowing up, and we had to go through and actually do some sort of a skin patch. And we didn't want to have that happen, because some of these roads may not have been on the schedule to pave anytime soon. So we didn't want to actually ruin our roads any faster than we had to. So when we did that on 4th east, we took the time, made sure the seams were in the right spot, but we didn't take into account the canal that was there just as it crosses here about at 200 North, and that canal failed. We had to tear up the road and then put in a box culvert. But anyway, I guess a long story short, what we're trying to do is as we go through and do an asphalt treatment and we check out the structure of the road, then we will go ahead and put in bike lanes. And as this plan shows, you know, we doubled it after they were in, you know, as soon as we had the plan. After that, between that and October of 2012, we had up to 22. And then as of October 2012, we had 34. And I do apologize that we really haven't had a chance to update this map as best as we could. We've done a lot more projects since then. We've done some overlays, reconstructs, some microsurface on some of our more highly traveled roads that we're trying to keep that asphalt in good shape. But Brady did the best he could looking at what we've done in recent past. And as of 2010, now to 2020, we have 53 miles of bike lanes. Now, we haven't really done too much of an improvement to trails. We do have some additional trails that are along Geneva Road, but those were already, I guess that happened with our Geneva Road project. That's when that happened. So the trails and the PED part of it, we haven't really developed our system as much as maybe we would want it to, but we have done a really good job of adding bike lanes. Some of those planned paths that were on here for more of your planned multi-use path, you can see here, this is actually on an existing canal. And even though I think a lot of us would like to have that, an existing trail or a trail on an existing canal, a lot of those folks that have that trail or that canal in their backyard weren't exactly really excited about having all of a sudden this onslaught of strangers walking close to their backyard. So I don't know if that will happen. I mean, we've identified it here as a possibility, but we don't necessarily have the right-of-way width in that area for that Provo Bench Canal that we do for our Murdoch Canal. When the Murdoch Canal came in and was piped, we had a much wider right-of-way. I think we had 40 to 50 feet, which is much more comfortable for those backyard neighbors, whereas some of these other canals that run through Orem, the Provo Bench or the North Union Canal, that right-of-way is maybe 10 to 12 feet wide. And for some people, they're very comfortable with that, but for a lot, they aren't. So I don't know if those trails will ever come around and be placed on those canals. I mean, there could be with some redevelopment opportunities, but I probably would guess that those won't. Going forward now, there has been some talk of some different types of treatments, and right now we are in the process of doing an update to our transportation master plan. There is a lot more of a desire to have active transportation, but there also, as much as there's an appetite for that, there's still a very large appetite for folks that want to be able to drive their cars, for folks that want to park in front of their homes. And quite frankly, we just haven't done enough really to, I guess, I don't know how to say this, but in order for some of those types of transportation, I think, to become more popular, maybe our roads need to become more congested. So I don't know what I should do with that, because typically we want to be able to move cars, but when it's not as convenient to drive a car five blocks and it's better to walk and or ride, I think that's when you're going to see a lot of that become a lot more popular. But until then, we still can move around in our city pretty easily. I mean, during peak times here on Center Street, trying to cross or 8th North, it is kind of a problem. But for most of the time, it's not too bad. And I guess that's probably more of a relative term. But other than that, I mean, do you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns? I know I saw when I'm doing this, Ryan, Brady, did you guys have anything you wanted to add?
No, Sam, I think you covered it pretty much. And I think there's, like you just mentioned, in terms of bike lanes and stuff like that, there's that balance of, like you said, the on-street parking versus those bike lanes, and that's, so some of these corridors where we even do have, outlined that they're going to be a future bike lane or planned bike lane, that might not happen just given, the residents, and they might not essentially want it and value that parking more than the bike lane. So it is kind of a balancing act as we're moving forward. And yeah, I mean, I think you covered most of it though.
Yeah, it was interesting. Brady and I were looking at we were speaking with another candidate to be on our transportation and advisory commission, and he was mentioning how on I think it was Fourth
For
South,
South.
we have some bike lanes there. And he was just mentioning how, why did we put those in? I mean, the common thing that I hear is I've never seen a cyclist on that, and yet we took away our left turn lane. And it's like, well, I'm sure maybe the times you drive you haven't seen one. I'm sure there are some cyclists that ride it. And we would like to be better about that as far as providing that opportunity. But I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I've been involved with UDOT Region 3. They took some of their planners and some of their project managers up to Madison, Wisconsin, where the University of Wisconsin is, and they have intentionally not built a lot of parking for their football facility and throughout their city, and they have made it a priority to maintain those paths for cyclists, and they cycle in that area year round. And that's an area that's, because obviously one of the concerns or one of the complaints or one of the reasons why we don't have all of those is because we have winter and we need to have areas for snow storage, which is true. But then when you look at a community up in Wisconsin, which probably gets more snow than we do and has winter for a little bit longer, they've actually figured out a way to make it a priority. And there's a lot of folks that actually utilize that. So it's kudos to them. But I mean, it's, I don't know. It's like, who wants to start to tear off that Band-Aid and get folks to utilize this? I myself live in Springville, and about 10 years ago or so, I used to ride my bike to work, and it was great. Then I got involved and had other things after work, so I needed to get home in a little bit more expedient time than 45 minutes. So I don't do that anymore. I enjoyed it, but with that being said too, now that I'm just a little bit older, I'm not super old, but I'm old enough that I get a little freaked out by distracted drivers. And it'd be nice to have a dedicated path, but it'd be hard to make one just from my house to here at work. So it's kind of selfish. So we got to, figure out other ways to kind of to generate that. And I guess that's what you guys are involved with, right? Is how to create that and maintain it.
And Paul, I know when you kind of reached out too, you initially were just wondering if there was an updated version from the 2010 that's kind of shown here. And like Sam mentioned, we're in the process of upgrading our transportation master plan. It's going to be, going to incorporate the bike and ped plan. And so we will have, that kind of coming out sometime here in the near future with that. But I mean, right now, this is actually kind of probably, the latest that we really have on that, of kind of where we have bike lanes and those multi-use trails.
Yeah, I really, so I'm one of the people who does ride his bike on 4th South. So you can tell your friend.
You're gonna have to time it when he's there so you guys can ride side by side or something.
Right. And I love that bike lane. But I do also understand the balance between the turning lane and the parking area and everything with that. But thank you. Yes, we did want to just kind of see where the city was at compared to the 2010 plan and where you're planning on going. And it sounds like you've got a great plan coinciding with your resurfacing schedule. What we can do, I mean, there's potentially a few things, but one of the things I think we see as our mandate is kind of outreach and publicize and just kind of let people know the facilities that are available to them. I don't know. I know that there was a survey done in 2010 as part of that active transportation plan to see.
Paul, you're froze.
What people wanted and what people were using and things like. I don't know if there's been.
I think you're there now. We just fast forwarded your whole sentence though, so you might have to repeat it.
Did you lose me? Sorry, I just saw
Yeah.
that my connection became unstable. I'm sorry. Do we have any sort of data in terms of the number of people who use the bike lanes and or would like to if blank blank, right?
I think the answer to that, Sam, you might know more than me, but no, I don't believe that we have any data on utilization of bike lanes. I think that'd be something that would be good information to have, you know, in terms of even like a benefit cost type of a thing to go through the process to put the bike in lanes in and see the utilization of it to see how that's kind of come to fruition. But no, I don't believe we have any data, but we do believe it. I believe it would be able to know. Kind of see how they're currently being utilized.
Yeah, I know there's counters on the Murdoch Canal Trail, and they have an idea of how much use there is there. We have permanent counters throughout the city that count vehicles. I don't know how sensitive they are for cyclists. Brady and I were talking after we had talked to this gentleman about being on our commission. We thought, you know, to his point, we have the capability to set out mobile CCTV cameras, and we can set them out and count the areas. But I think to his point, and maybe to what you're saying too, Paul, is that we probably should, okay, if the utilization is maybe 3 or 4 folks in a day, you know, does that warrant to have the lane? Well, in someone's eyes, it may not, but then it'd be nice for us to have the data as to, okay, so we've taken away the center turn lane, and in this block, we've been able to study it, and we saw, yeah, there was an average delay of maybe 10 seconds. There wasn't really much of a queue length, as much as, you know, someone says, oh, I have to wait there forever. I mean, yeah, I understand. As soon as you have to push on the brakes, all of a sudden forever starts, right? At least that's what it seems like. So it would be nice to have that data or something to speak to. It's like, yeah, we understand that in this area, we videoed it for the afternoon. We saw a total of 20 cyclists, you know, westbound and 30 eastbound. We did see a few folks that turned, but their average delay was maybe 2 or 3 seconds. And that's where we say, you know, we realize that it is a small amount of delay, but it's worth it because these people are doing this and they've taken these cars off and whatever. But I mean, at least then we can actually speak to it with some sort of metric. I think it would be worthwhile.
Hey, Sam. This is Jake. I am aware that Mountain Land Association of Governments has a little bit of data that they purchased from the Strava app.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was going to mention, yeah.
Yeah, that would probably be a good place to get some data.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Paul, you're a
Yeah,
cyclist.
right.
Do you use Strava at all?
I haven't. No.
Okay.
Paul, come on, man, you're
quite as
killing
app
us.
savvy.
To be on Strava.
So I'm just going to break in, and because this is a fascinating conversation, we've got other people with questions too. So, and I just kind of want to include them in the conversation, kind of open it up more broadly. Quinn, you have some comments?
Yeah, this is really helpful. I appreciate it. I want to second the notion that we want good data here. I would not be too discouraged if our data suggests that we don't have a high level of usage right now, because I think part of our mission here is to generate more interest over time, but we need to know where we're starting. And, you know, some of the cost benefit things that you were talking about, Sam, I think could be very useful for the city. So whatever we need to do to get data at likely times for bicycle commuting and other things. That would be really, really useful for us, I think. Secondly, this map that you have right now, Brady, that you pulled together, is this available on the city website?
No, not yet. No, it's not.
I think we really need to get up on the city website of an up-to-date, clear map of where all our bike lanes are. One idea that we've talked about in this committee before is maybe facilitating an event, a city event, where people can come and bike all of our bike lanes or something like that. It would be really very, very helpful for us to have clear visuals on that. It would also be helpful for me to understand a little bit where our next most urgent priorities are. So I know that we've been building these lanes a bit at convenience when we're doing some resurfacing. But if we had specific priorities, I'd like to know what those look like and what our timeline on those priorities would be, so that we had a way of measuring if we were making progress against those priorities. I think that would be really helpful for me. It would be helpful for me to also understand where we have bike parking. So one of the things that makes it a little bit tricky for me is I consider where, if I'm going to bike to a particular place, is I have to ask myself, will there be a place for me to park my bike? And sometimes I believe there will be, and sometimes I'm just not sure. And that little bit of doubt, I think, sometimes affects my willingness to bike.
Hey,
So,
Quinn, can I speak to that?
Like this, it would be helpful to, I think, also highlight where there's bike parking if we could.
Quinn, as of right now, the city has an ordinance that any new commercial development is required to put in bike parking. So anything new that you see going in will definitely have that bike parking.
I guess to your question too, Quinn, are you looking at, is there like a public parking spot for everyone to park, like a parking lot, or are you wanting to know if specific businesses have parking?
No, yeah, more the latter, right? I just, if I'm pulling up to some place and not sure whether or not they would have a place to chain my bike.
Okay.
No, that's an open question. And maybe if it's not an issue, and so Jake, your suggestion is maybe it's not that big of an issue, then maybe that's something we need to advertise a little bit better.
I would agree with you on that.
I was just, my wife is a GIS analyst, spatial data. And I was just thinking it would be beautiful if we had on the city website an interactive map with layers, and one of the layers was biking, and it would have, you know, where the bike parking is and where the bike lanes are, so that someone could just pull that up and basically map out their route.
Maybe even using, having a Google Maps button where you can click on bike from here to here, right? So that's available through the website as well.
Great thoughts, comments. Thanks, Quinn.
Yeah, just to add on to that too, I am part of geography at UVU, and that'd be like an epic student project. They would love to do that. So we have lots of GIS students, and that would be really cool. I was also thinking, while we were talking, I have this GPS video camera, and I'm thinking I might have a student, you can like just attach it to your bike, and then it takes like a video of your path, and then you can go through and like you can notice hazards or like road conditions. So it would be more than just like, here's a bike lane, but like, here's what this particular bike lane looks like. Here's what this one was. And that could be helpful for us to, maybe for you all to identify like where some are, maybe there's like some funky sidewalk things going on or something. And it's really easy to kind of tag in GIS.
Good to help people be familiar with the bike lanes and become more comfortable as well, if they could see an image of what's there on their planned route that they're expected to take. Yeah.
I also think it would be, just building on that, Hillary, it would be so cool to like advertise bike route of the week or bike route of the week, and we have a little video of someone on that bike route with the GPS, camera, where you can watch it, on YouTube or on the city website for 10, 15 minutes, and you can see what that bike route looks like. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You can finish that and then I'll share my experience.
No,
So just another thought.
Go ahead.
It would be fun to have points of interest throughout the city. Maybe historical spots or other, other points of interest that people may ride their bikes by or that we drive by every day and have no idea that they're there as part of that map and as an excuse or a reason to get out and explore these different trails.
Like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, geocaching, right? Isn't that what they kind of did? Is I don't know if it's still a plan, but they used to geocache. You go in, you download these coordinates, they go ahead and ride. And I remember doing that with my kids. Just to touch, I mean, we do have some maps on our city website. It's under services and then maps, and then up pulls this layer. And we have different maps. So it wouldn't be too hard, I would think, that we can coordinate and we could add the bike lanes to it. I think that would be something pretty easy to do. To the one point that Quinn made about, we used to have a, I think we called it roll with the mayor, but we would have during May when they had Bike Awareness Week, we used to have some sort of a cycling kickoff, and we would meet here at the city center. We would provide breakfast. Council members would come and flip some pancakes, and we would do stuff like that. The hard part is that, and maybe Jeff can speak a little bit to this, we're a little busy right now with a lot of different things, so we haven't been able to find the time to actually do that. And we have asked even members of the Transportation Commission. I know there was Kirby was doing some things too in the planning department, trying to get some folks that would want to do that. We would still want to be a part of that. It's just that we haven't been able to find time, or like in a meeting like this, it's always a great idea, but then no one wants to say, oh, you know what, we'll actually go ahead and take that on it and we'll be part of that and help organize it, because we can utilize our social media and all kinds of things to help. It's just always been one of those things that's been kind of hard to keep going. So we have done something like that in the past, and if that's something you guys would want to do, I think we could find support, and because Mad Dog Cycles would come there, they would help tune bikes. It seemed like the county would provide 50 or so free helmets. Yeah, we kind of talk about some things, and we'd go ride a route and come back, and the police were there. It was kind of fun, but it's just everything's been kind of busy. So, and right now with COVID, I guess it'd probably be a good thing to do, right? Be outside and not have to worry about being so close. So we have done things like that, and we could do those again. It's just a matter of getting someone to kind of give us a hand.
And I can't speak for the other members of the council, but I think it sounds like a great idea. And I know the mayor, based on past experience, would be there. I mean, he seems to show up at everything. And so, I would be there. Sounds like a lot of fun. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Can I just speak to the next generation of cyclists? If we are, we're right now, a lot of it, as a mom who has ridden with my kids in the past, that's a different perspective. I ride in a different way than perhaps a commuter might ride. And so I don't have large scale data. This is just anecdotal, but the things that I've noticed is, the lanes might be clear for drivers, but again, Hillary, you're talking about the hazards in the road, the debris. Usually the bike lanes are full of them, and that makes it difficult. And then obviously on Orem Boulevard is a route that we could take, but it's not always safe for biking with my kids. Like the east side of the road and on part of the stretch doesn't have a sidewalk. And so if I'm trying to train my young cyclists to grow up and have this culture of being able to bike and have that kind of limited independence as they're emerging before they can drive. If I can't have places where we can get around safely, again, it's that safety feature that prevents a lot of people from taking that option. And so if we are trying to incorporate families riding together, children riding, younger teenagers being able to ride and experience some level of independence as they can get around the city, I think that merits planning as we look at the future. Obviously, we can't do all the things on our wish list right now, but as long as we can incorporate that. I love the idea of the green lanes or green blocks in the lanes, that added visual to the bike lane tells not only the drivers and current cyclists that this is a protected bike lane, but it also reassures prospective cyclists that, okay, this is obviously identified as a bike lane, and the drivers can see that, and so they're more likely to attempt that if they feel like that safety is in place. I could talk more about my experiences, but I know that time is limited. So.
No, you're fine. I mean, I guess to touch on a few of those, I know someone did bring up the sidewalks. Our city does do a really extensive job of looking at hazards, and we have a trip hazard mitigation program. So we're fairly proactive on trying to do some things on our sidewalks. Concerning the maintenance, that's been a thing that I've always brought up time and time again, especially this time of year. In the spring, it seems like as soon as the snow is off, yeah, the lanes are nice and clear, but then, you know, because I have a skinny tire bike and a road bike, and you end up riding closer into the travel lane, because if you don't, then you're getting flats. So I have talked to our public works folks about how can we be a little bit more proactive on our bike lanes and sweep those a little bit more frequently. And I can bring that up to them again. Orem Boulevard, we have a project. I know it's been signed by UDOT as an alternate route for State Street. We have some storm drain inlets in there that we need to fix. They're round, and it creates kind of a dimple, and it's not exactly conducive for cycling, besides the spatial, issues without getting more right away. But we are aware of those, and we do want to make sure that we fix those so it's a little more safer to ride. But yeah, this is great feedback, especially I know with our State Street master plan and our districts and the plans going forward, and Jake can probably speak to this, is yeah, we do want to create more opportunities for more connectivity so that we can have these corridors that are off of the major vehicular corridors, so you can go down a street that has less traffic, but you can still connect to all those businesses that are along, say, State Street in our districts, instead of, it's like, really, I have no place. If I want to ride my bike to a business on State Street, I have to ride on State Street, and it's not very comfortable to ride on a street where everyone's going 50 miles an hour and there's an access every 20 feet. It's not a comfortable feeling for even a spandex wearer versus a mom trying to teach her kids how to ride a bike. So yeah, we are aware of those things.
And also the increased number of residents who might be using motorized wheelchairs who have limited mobility. A lot of times I see them riding out in the middle of the street because the sidewalks are insufficient and the bike lanes are either non-existent or dangerous. Right. So that would accommodate both the cyclist population and a growing number of the population who gets around on motorized wheelchairs.
Well, I would say that this has been a very active conversation, lots of ideas and lots of interest. I'm so pleased that that we've been able to engage in this. We do have other items on our agenda, so perhaps we should try to get to some of those. I would hope that we could remain engaged in this moving forward. What is the best way to do that, Brady and Sam? It sounds like that we are maybe volunteering to take the lead on some kind of bike day in the community. I know Orem has the Orem Bicycle Collective or something, that they're also interested in that sort of thing, right? Do you folks talk to them much?
We have in the past, and I don't know if it's because of last year with COVID and all that. I hate to use that as an excuse, but things kind of got all sideways with all that, so I haven't heard. And I know we did have a gentleman on our Transportation Advisory Commission that was pretty active in cycling, and he since has moved to American Fork. So there's an opportunity for that. And I know the Transportation Commission in years past has been involved and wanted to do that. And I think they did spearhead that. You know, it's just one of those things. It's just time. It's the one thing that we can't make more of. But yeah, I think between your guys' commission and then Transportation Advisory, I think it's possible. And it's just a matter of picking a date that kind of works for everyone. The Bike Awareness Week is in May. It's kind of hit and miss for weather, and I know I've always thought it'd be kind of fun to do it in conjunction with Summerfest and have kids riding their bike in the parade. I mean, there's all kinds of options and all kinds of things. It's just one of those things that we talk about it, but no one raises their hands and said, I want to be in charge of it and I'll be responsible for it. So,
and I guess my other question had to do with you say you're in the process of producing new master plans and so forth. Is there any way that we can play a role in that process, or?
No, you guys aren't allowed. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. No, you guys can.
I figured I was banned. I usually am.
No, yeah, you guys can be involved with that when we have that. When we get a draft version, it sounds like Jake might be responsible for this committee, and we can get you a copy of that, or we can let you guys look at it, or at least look at the active transportation component of it for sure.
I think would be quite interested in that. So there's two ideas of how we can be involved going forward. Maybe we could comment on the master plan, and we could work with you or other groups to help set up this bike day. Are there other ways that we can be involved?
I don't think so. I mean, you can contact Brady or myself anytime. If you guys have a concern, traffic calming, bike, if you guys are looking at a complete street, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we would entertain. A lot of it is usually with this, it's a little more reactive. If there's a request and there seems to be a few more people that want to do that, we get the neighborhood involved. And then if there needs to be some additional funding, I mean, yeah, we can do all that. It's just some of this stuff, it's kind of hard to pinpoint it. It helps if there's people in the area that are responsive and desire it, and then can generate some momentum, so we can go ahead and move forward with it. So,
and I guess I had forgotten about this idea of, I really like the idea of the sort of the mapping or the informational aspect of it. That's another way I guess we can be involved. I'm sorry, I momentarily forgot about that. And Hillary, I like the idea of maybe a project for your students. So I guess we can talk about that. I mean, or gathering data. That was the other thing we talked about. Though I'm not sure we would be good data gatherers. I mean, maybe that could also be a student project where some students set up some video cameras somewhere and just recorded some data. So I guess we've got some possibilities that we need to talk over here.
Yeah,
okay.
We've worked with BYU students on their engineering capstone projects. So if there's projects with UVU or whatnot, we're willing to help. I mean, whatever you guys want to do, we can help facilitate that. I mean, it's because we're getting something for a bargain, and they're getting a chance to learn and actually do something that's a little bit more useful and applicable. So it's usually a win-win.
Okay, so we've got a few ideas. We will keep this on the agenda, and we will talk over these ideas and ways that we would like to do this. And we really thank you, Sam and Brady, for your time today. This has been very, very helpful and interesting, and as you can see from the response, deeply engaging.
I know we appreciate the time and the comments.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.
We'll see ya. Okay. Thank you, Paul, for arranging that. And I would like to go back to the start and apologize to, I did not sort of make sure that we were recording at first, but I saw that we got it going as soon as I kind of started. So thank you. The next thing on the agenda is discussion of the Community Renewable Energy Program. Sarah, you said you'd have some conversations along these lines and you could update us on some things.
So I have a meeting with a couple of people tomorrow. I attended a virtual meeting with the Utah Clean Energy and spoke with a couple of people from Salt Lake and Cottonwood Heights who are involved. And I mentioned that Orem was formerly involved and then has since pulled back and have some questions about how, if there's a possibility to rejoin. There is a possibility to rejoin. A couple things they mentioned. I know that there was some concerns about the costs, the projected costs kind of to buy in and what those costs would look like if some of those communities would then pull out, as Orem has done. They have identified some anchor communities, is what they're calling them, that are ready to take on and absorb those extra costs and not pass on to those other communities that are a little bit more tenuous. So, but there are several deadlines for re-engaging if we are interested in doing that. And I'll get some more detailed information at the meeting tomorrow. Jeff, I don't know if you can hear, but I did forward on that invitation to you and to Darren and Quinn and Matt. And so hopefully we can kind of nail down some more specifics. And then Jeff, I don't know if you're available to attend that, but it would be really great to have somebody from the City Council in on that conversation to be able to then take that back and discuss with the council and kind of take the temperature of the rest of the council on the possibilities of re-engaging.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. I did see the invitation. That's for tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, I did see that invitation. I'm working tomorrow, but I will, I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to readjust some things and participate in that without any problem at all.
Okay.
So thank you for that.
That would be great, yeah. 2:30.
Sarah, just to clarify, is the agenda for tomorrow about HB 411 or is it a broader agenda?
No, it's specifically about HB 411, and it's just with these two, the individuals from Salt Lake and Cottonwood Heights, and with the Orem contingency to talk specifically about Orem and how we can re-engage in the conversation. But yeah, specifically about this particular, the Community Renewable Energy Program.
That's great. I happen to have a long-standing meeting at that moment. It would cause me some difficulty to change it. Quinn, who else have you invited? Quinn, can you make that?
Well,
tomorrow?
I invited you as chair and Quinn as the energy person, but if you can't make it, that's fine. But if you can make it, then just kind of an extra set of ears and questions that could clarify things. So.
There's only a very slight chance I can make it, unfortunately, because I have a commitment that goes into the mid-afternoon.
Okay.
But if I can figure out a way to end earlier, I might be able to join.
Okay. Well, and Matt has indicated that he'll be able to join in. So with Matt and hopefully Jeff.
I think those are the two guys that are going to matter most here, since I think our perspectives have been heard quite a bit, but being able to convey this clearly to the level of the city in terms of the city administration and the city council, I think that's the great benefit of this conversation.
Right. So.
Thank you, Sarah, for setting that up. Matt, do you have anything to add? I know that you were going to attend some kind of, maybe that meeting hasn't happened yet in January. There was some kind of, we were going to reconvene with the city level, but
no, there's only thing is the meeting I've invited to tomorrow, which I will be there at. And there is a monthly meeting with all the cities that I will listen into just to keep informed. But as far as it goes, until we get direction from the city council or the manager's office, you know, I'm just learning and fact finding at this point.
yeah, great. That's what I had in mind. I think was that meeting that maybe you were going to invite to just to sit in on and learn. But well, we'll be very interested to hear what you learn about tomorrow. Thank you, Sarah, for facilitating that. Okay, the next item on the agenda, if it's okay to move on, is discussion of the library space on environmental stewardship. I forget what you're calling that space, some clever name, Sarah, I'm sorry.
Just call it right now the conservation terrace.
Okay, the conservation terrace, okay. Would you like to update us on that?
Sure, I will share my screen. They weren't able to come and present at this month's meeting, but they would be interested. The students, there are 2 students who worked on this project and their professor, Greg Jolly. So I will see if they can come and formally present on this at our meeting next month, and then we can kind of go more in depth and ask some questions. But I just wanted to pass along what he shared with me currently. So it's upstairs on the 2nd floor of the north wing, and it's this unused, odd-shaped space outside. And so these are some things that they came up with. Those are planter boxes with bench seating, and with, you know, a lot of all water-wise or local plantings, and then some potted trees, I think, in between, with some seating, some, you know, here was some fixed table and chair seating, and also some adjustable seating for if there's like a speaker or whatever, then that could be brought into the space. So this just can kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse as to the possible vision for the space. There's not a whole lot we can do about that right now, but I will pass along. I will stop sharing my screen. Well, I'll leave it up there so you can take a look at it. But there was some concern about, again, doing another project at the library. I think there's probably, you know, the library auditorium has been a big project, and there's a lot gone into it, with mixed feelings from the public. So I think there might be some hesitation on completing another project here anytime soon. I know that there was some concerns for drainage, and that there's a leak on there, although the leak would still be there whether we add this or not. But and then somebody had floated the idea of maybe there's another place on city property where something like this would be better suited. I don't agree with that, but I'm willing to explore that option.
Sarah, where was the hesitation from about another library project?
I will turn that over to Matt.
So we ran it up the chain to the city manager's office, and city manager's office expressed hesitation on doing any additional project at this time. They feel like, in addition to the water leak there and the concerns over that, that there is not the bandwidth or energy at the library to take on another construction project right now. They want to sort of give them a break. That's basically it. And, you know, I said to Sarah, you know, I think, you know, the design work is very helpful these students are doing, because that can help people understand and imagine what the potential of the space is. They asked if I could maybe assist Sarah in looking at other sites, trying to think of ones that are, you know, readily available to the public, have a lot of, you know, traffic with the public. You know, it's a small number of options, but that's where it's at. Is I think if these plans are shared, then maybe the discussion could keep on going. But I think if it's shared, it also needs to be showed with alternative locations as they've requested, so that they can evaluate the pros and cons.
Matt, just if I understand correctly, the concern was not to burden the library, or was there another concern besides bandwidth of the library? And
the water issues. There's some leaking up there. They try to resolve that. Spent some time and money on that, and it's not fully resolved, and continue to be leaking issues. So, you know, if drainage was adequately addressed, maybe, but again, there's concerns because of the existing problems.
And when we say alternative sites, are we talking about a corner of a park?
Well, that's to be determined. I think that's where imagination has to kick in, finding locations that meet the goals and objectives, and then being able to explain the pros and cons of each of those sites. And that would be helpful in leaders making decisions, because then they can see the merits of or dismerits of alternatives.
So if I could throw something in, I don't know if this would even be a possibility, but Sarah, something else that you had mentioned some time ago was the possibility of having a place where, kind of like a little miniature farm. And there was some property that's adjacent to Sarah Park that I believe a grandson of the owner was kind of had the same idea of offering, and by offering, I don't know financially what that means, but he was saying it would be really great to have kind of a working farm there with animals and trees and, you know, garden space and whatnot. And so hearing, I don't know if there would be a way that, if that would even be a possibility, number one, and number two, if it were a possibility, combining those two elements of, you know, your conservation terrace, kind of having those two ideas work together. But I know that that's a long shot, but just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we can add that to the list of alternatives.
That sometimes these type of ideas take time to mature, and so, you know, I don't discouraging the project, because I think more study and being able to show options and a little bit of time, you know, this is a project that may have some merit and be able to move forward. But again, I'm not in the realm of making those decisions. I'm just the messenger on this. So, but I think those steps would be helpful to allow the decision makers to make better informed decisions.
From my perspective, one of the criteria by which I think we would judge a location is whether or not it's a good place for education. So I think much of the motivation behind this is not just beautification, but it's also Is this a space where people can gather? Is it a space where people will stumble upon it, right, and learn in the process? And so much of the advantage of the library is that the library already suits both of those purposes for us. If it was just put into a park, I have some concern that the educational purpose of it may be diluted, and that it may be more difficult to provide a space for community learning. It's not necessarily the case, but
yeah. And I think when you evaluate alternatives, looking at objectives and goals like that are very important. And the better that you can articulate those, then they can be ranked. That is really meeting, you're going to have multiple goals and objectives. Education, opportunity, there'll be physical constraints and practical constraints. And looking at multiple locations, you can rank those. And by ranking each of those objectives and criteria, you can demonstrate which one really comes out on top. And I think this is not the direction from the city management. This is just my suggestion of how to continue the dialogue and show options and alternatives that are persuasive.
And again, time, it could be that in a couple of years, there won't be the weariness that they're feeling right at this moment, which I completely understand.
Sarah, wasn't it the library that offered that space?
Yes. So Nathan Robinson, who works at the library, was the one who identified that space that some of the people at the library had been trying to develop because it was completely underutilized. But there are different people at the library who may not see the relevance for that at this point.
My understanding is that there wasn't exactly communication to the library director and the management team about offering that space.
Okay, that was a very helpful discussion. Thank you. And we appreciate, Matt, your suggestions on how to put forward proposals and what the concerns are and how to improve our ideas. That's very helpful, and we really do appreciate that, Matt. Thank you so much, because this is a world we do not understand, and you are an excellent translator for us. So thank you. We are out of time. We still have an important agenda item. Quinn, what is your feeling? Do you want to try to give us a preview of some ideas here in the next couple of minutes, or would you rather just wait until next meeting?
I think we need a little bit of time for discussion, so let's put it on next month's agenda if it's okay.
Okay, we will prioritize it next month then. And I will make a note of some of the ideas from today, and appreciate everybody's participation. Let's see. The only other agenda item was kind of informational, but I think most people, I'm not sure that we've got that there was anything important, other important information to share.
I would just add really quickly, there was a request for me to explore employee green team or stewardship team. I have followed up on that. I have authorization to start a program. And so I've worked with the city manager's office on that. That will be, as soon as I get a couple more projects, then I'll organize the first meeting, hopefully shooting for February. And what I think you would expect is we meet monthly. We'll categorize the efforts we're already making. We will then, have brainstorm sessions about where areas we could improve. We make inventory of those issues. And probably at budget time, we will put forward any type of budget request that we let the city administration decide where they want to head forward or not. And then maybe on an annual or biannual basis, meet with you just to report and get your feedback ideas. So that's the plan at this point.
That is so outstanding, Matt.
Yay!
Yeah, I saw lots of really happy body language around the Zoom conference table, as it were. And thank you so much, because, you know, I don't know, as I've kind of thought about it, these institutional, structural, process-oriented things are so important, right? To make a difference, we just got to get in on those kinds of issues. So that's fantastic. And I was really heartened today to hear that some people working on the bike plan are themselves bikers and so forth. And I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of interest among, or I hope there would be quite a bit of interest among Orem employees for helping make a difference on these kinds of green issues. So thank you so much, Matt, for taking the lead there and helping get that done. That's fantastic news. Well, on that very positive note, we need to approve our minutes from last time. Could I get a motion to that effect?
I motion to approve.
Is there
a second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
This is just as a comment. This has become easier now that our minutes are click here for recording.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's far easier. It is so simple. I just look at it. I was like, yeah, those were our topics, and I'm presuming no one has doctored the recording. So that's fabulous. Yes. Do we need anything else, Jake?
Just a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Wait, can I ask a question really? Wait, can I
Please,
ask a question? Darren, were you going to coordinate with Kevin for the city?
Oh, yes, we need to. Thank you, Hillary. Oh, that was on the top of my mind today, obviously, and it slipped. That is so fabulous. And thank you, Jeff, for getting Kevin. I suppose you've all seen my email to that effect and other follow-up emails where we are on the, that's another institutional process kind of thing. This is what I was talking about. And boy, we just have all kinds of good news here. That is so exciting that we have that we have a spot on the agenda and that it works for his schedule. And I'm happy to let him know that, Hillary, or you can. I mean, well, you've been mostly coordinating with him, but I could step in at this point and just sort of.
Yeah, you might be more familiar with kind of the vision of like things he can address, or.
Okay.
I think you can go ahead and do that.
Okay. Yeah, let me talk with him about that because he might want to know from us. So let me see if I can get from him a few ideas about what he could address, and let me have a conversation with him. And but I might come back to you all on email about topic ideas and priorities and things like that. Does that sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like I can't remember the exact date, but it's coming up here in a couple of weeks on a Saturday. So we need to do it before our next meeting.
Yeah, January 23rd.
Okay, great. Thank you, Hillary, for that. Anything else before we have a motion to adjourn?
The only 30-second comment I'll make is that if you read the recently released environmental survey of Greater Utah Valley communities, it looks like Orem is doing amazing things, even more amazing than I think we're doing, which means that we have an opportunity here to live up to that reputation that the environmental survey has mapped out for us.
The environmental survey, is
there a link for that?
If you just, I think you can just Google environmental survey of Greater Utah Valley communities. I'll try to provide it in an email as well.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, we've got a
Darren,
lot.
Darren, if I could just say something before you close. I just want to compliment you and this committee. It's been fun today, just kind of sitting back and listening and feeling the energy and the synergy and, just kind of an expansion and magnification of what this commission is and what you're doing. So kudos to all of you guys. Thank you so much for your hard work and heartfelt contributions.
So question, Jeff, that almost sounded like this might be your last meeting. Is this the time of year when you switch committees or?
It is, but I have not heard anything about changing, and that's not where that was coming from. So
okay.
as far as I'm concerned, you're stuck with me. So,
oh darn.
So yeah, sorry about that.
No, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate that. My wife is threatening to turn on blender for dinner, and I'm preventing. So I need a motion to close at this point. Quinn so moves, and I presume the wave from Sarah was a second.
I'm already, you know.
Okay.
Moving on, sure.
I'm going to assign Quinn the motion and Sarah the second.
Sounds good.
Engineer here based on hand motions, and all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We'll see you all later then. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.